Hey, everybody. Javier here once again bringing you another fantastic podcast. This is my second video podcast, so please bear with me as I work some of the kinks out, get some of the feedback that I appreciate, and make some changes here and there. So, once again, I do appreciate the feedback that everybody sent me or talked to me about. I made some great little different changes here, so you'll see some of them today. So, today's themes is exercise and beer. So the latter you'll probably always see on here, something to do with beer, as I have a lot of reviews that I did, 100 and counting, and I will be adding some of those older ones along with the new one. I'll do a new one every week. And start talking more about the history of beer and how things go with beer. But the first part of the podcast has to do today with exercise, and what I'll be doing is changing it depending on the guests that I have. That's right. I decided to take the plunge and started to interview people for guest spots on my podcast. So, one of the reasons why I called it Javier in the Air, not just for the suggestion that James Pavlovsky gives me, but also because it's going to be in the air. There's going to be things going. I may do a theme this week and then a different theme next week and a different one the following week, or I may stick to the same theme, make it a kind of a two-parter or something. It really depends on the people that I will be interviewing. So I'm looking at just about anybody. I posted on Facebook and said, hey, anybody interested in doing a interview with me? I have one coming up here in a minute, which is why the theme is called exercise, and then I'll have subsequent interviews with different people. It may be family sometimes, it may be friends. Hopefully, I may start getting some brewers out here. Maybe I can get somebody at the boutique to do a quick interview about beer. So there are going to be interviews and pre-recorded beer reviews on the back end. On the front end, you'll see the interviews that I have about different things. So this week is actually about exercise. So you may or may not know, I actually was certified for a while in a couple of different things involved with that organization that had fit on the end, let's put it that way, so I don't have to worry about any reprisals or any kind of thing like that. So I did their, one level of certification. I also did their kettlebell, their strongman, and their mobility. So taking all that together, I did that when I first moved back to Texas, which was 2011. And I started to get on a little training regimen and trying to get myself into a better shape, both mentally and physically. And I actually did a blog about it, comparing my workout to the different levels of hell. So if you have a chance to go find that, I recommend it. It's a good read, even though I'm touting myself here. It showed the different issues that people have coming from a different place when it comes to exercise. Some of my family members were in great shape when they were younger and have continued to stay in shape, and so they have continued to, which makes it easier in the long run. And you'll hear from my brother Robert here in a minute. He is my guest today on this podcast, and he'll talk a little bit about where he's coming from as far as exercise go, which is a totally different place than where I'm coming from. We had the same basic beginning with coaches and being coached by our father, and my sisters being coached by my father and my mother. But he started a different regimen when he was young and worked his way that way. I myself did not, and I just took it for granted that I was going to be a slim guy for the rest of my life, and have paid for that by having health issues now. And so for exercise, for me, became kind of a something I just didn't want to do. I didn't like it. I didn't get that runner's high or that weightlifter high or that, man, this is a great thing. Never have. and probably never will. But now I know that some of the exercises that I've been doing are necessary. And so let's talk a little bit about what you want to do with yourself when it comes to exercise. Now, again, this is what I've done. This is from talking to different people that I know, working out with different people. It certainly works for me at this time. It may change later on, it may not. I may tweak it here and there. I've tweaked it here and there over the years. So certainly take this with a grain of salt and decide for yourself which way you want to go. I'm not here to push any agenda. I'm not here to try to force anybody to do anything. But I'm helping you out to make an informed decision from someone who's coming from not a perfect, already in shape body and just wants to get that extra 10 or 15 pounds off, or just feel a little bit better. I'm coming from a way different spot than that. And so, but I have had help over the years from my brother and my sister and other family members and friends who work out and talk to me a little bit about that. So, with the certifications, I actually taught at a kettlebell gym, and I enjoyed it. It was fun. I also taught a little strong person class at the gym as well on the weekends. So doing that taught me a lot about seeing the different um, the different physicalities that people have, that are coming from different spots. So I would train some people that were very fit, could do all the movements, the kettlebell movements without a problem, the additional movements using old dumbbells and the agility movements, not a problem. Anything I threw at them, they had no issue with it all. It was fantastic. They were able to do it. So those are the kind of ones that you kind of set on automatic. You tell them what you need to do, they can do it, and chances are they don't really want to help anyway. They just like to go through the routines, go through the regimen, and feel better for it, and then head out on their merry way. The other set of people that I had were people that were either coming back to exercise for the first time, never exercised, or never did anything coordination as far as like kettlebell goes. So all those three subgroups inside that group is what I mainly focused on. I'd had a lot of people that came that didn't know anything about the kettlebell, called it kettleball, for example, and so they were a little bit of a challenge, but a good challenge because as you may or may not have heard before, the best way to try to learn something is to teach someone yourself, someone who doesn't know anything. So then you have to break it down yourself, and as you start doing that, you start seeing ways that you can improve on yourself. And I was not a trainer. I mean, I was a trainer, but I wasn't a coach by any means. I didn't try to get them to move on to anything. We were just there to have a good time, and I was there to make sure that they didn't get hurt. So we moved on, and so there was people never, like I said, never saw kettlebell before, didn't know any of the movements, and I took them through that. I had some great teachers myself. Like I said, I was certified in kettlebell also. So I was able to take them through the movements, and I think they really enjoyed it. In fact, I know a lot of them really enjoyed it because they told me they did. Plus, they kept coming back, and it made differences in some of the little muscle differences for people. If you're not that strong upper body wise, and you're not that strong lower body wise, the kettlebell is a great form of exercise. It's a great little piece of equipment. You can have one in your home and do it while you're watching TV. If you're careful, you have to make sure you don't drop it, of course, because that would be bad. But it's something interesting that you can definitely do short-term, short bursts of workout while doing something. So anyway, there's kettlebell, there's anything you want to do. So teaching them helped me to learn a little bit more about where I was coming from, what I was doing, and how to do some of the things more efficiently. As you're focusing on helping other people, you eventually wind up focusing on yourself. So that's one of the best things that you can do. That I can a little bit of just telling you what I did and see if that helps you out. So now that I don't coach anymore, what I did is when I moved into my house that I bought about 6 years ago, I was determined to continue helping others, which in turn helps myself as well. So I started offering a free classes to friends of mine that live in the area that I worked with, and said, "Hey, why don't you come on over once or twice a week, and we'll work out." So I didn't get a lot of feedback on that. I didn't get a lot of people that wanted to do it because they're like, "You're not trained. You're not anybody that. Why should I listen to you? Look at the way you look." I got a lot of those. And so what's the point? And so I just kept going and offering to people, and eventually I had, over the years, I've had a smattering of as many as five and as little as one come to work out with me. One of the things that I like about that is that it holds me accountable, and I can partake in a great workout and give them a little bit of my understanding of some of the movements. Again, not super efficient, but just what works for them. Some people have issues, and you have to be careful on how you get them to do something. There's a lot of concerns about are people's knees okay? Are their feet okay? Is their back okay? Can they run? Can they not run? Can they at least jog or at least walk? How are you going to build that workout for it? So that's going to be we'll do exercise again. I mean, anybody and everybody can talk about exercise till they're blue in the face, but I will walk that down to another episode at another point, more along those lines. So anyway, so for me, some of the things that I did were got people to work out with me, and I've been doing it now for about 5 years now, almost six, where I have at least one person now, at least 1 to 2 people come Monday, 4 times a week, in the afternoon, and then early Saturday morning. If you happen to drive by or drive by my area, you'll see us out there usually between 8 and 9. In the wintertime, will be 8:30 to 9:30. And so it's great fun. So if anybody wants to come out and join us in the workout, just let me know, email me, direct message me, respond on the podcast that I have going, and we'll go from there and see what we'll see. Again, it's free. It's just meant to let you get interested in it. If you've never done exercise before, definitely talk to me, and we can just walk our way through it. I've had some people before that had never exercised or hadn't exercised in 10 to 15 years, and now they're working out on a regular basis, and that's great. They've moved on from me, some have, which is great too. If you find a better place, you find something that you want to do differently, by all means do it. As long as you want to keep moving, then certainly by all means just do what you're going to do. You don't have to come here all the time. You could always just come by once a week, or Saturday mornings only. It's just a good people hanging out doing a workout rather than just hanging out and drinking. So something a little different. And so if you're interested, let me know. But that's my kind of soapbox on exercise and how I do it. It's certainly not the only way to do it. Definitely not the only way to do it. And so we're going to hear from my brother Robert now, and he'll talk a little bit about how he came into the exercise beyond sports. He has a totally different view on exercise than I do. He's been working out for most of his life, lifting weights for most of his life, and has really enjoyed it and continues to enjoy it. So why don't we go over to the other Javier? You're gonna hear from a couple of different Javiers. The other Javier, and listen to the interview that he had with my brother Robert. All right, I'll be back in a minute. Today, I have my brother here for interview section. That's Rob, everybody. Hey. So
Hey,
we're going
it's
to talk
Rob.
about fitness today, and let's start at the beginning. So, when you were young, Rob, I know it's quite a quite a while ago. When you were
Hi.
young,
It wasn't that long
um,
ago.
what were the types of fitness that you would see growing up, and the types of things that helped you influenced you into doing fitness?
Yeah, well, as you know, being son of Robert Ayala Sr., that sports were not an option. It was basically, whatever he was coaching, that's what you played. And so
True.
that's kind of
True.
how we all got into it. But over time, I just kind of gravitated toward lifting weights. That's something that being someone small in stature and being someone that was kind of picked on, we didn't grow up in these lofty suburban neighborhoods. So, there was always the asshole that was picking on you. And so that kind of motivated me early on, probably by like sixth, seventh grade, to if I was going to be the shortest person around, I wasn't going to be the smallest person around. So dad encouraged me to start lifting weights. And eventually that kind of helped me with the sports that I was doing. And eventually we kind of moved away from dad as coach as we moved into, more of the sports in school and in high school and other things that we were doing. And we were kind of on our own at that
Right.
point. But it was always, for me, it was always the weightlifting. And, muscle and fitness was in Joe Weider, which most people probably
Joe
know the
Weider,
name.
yeah.
That was like a
Yep.
million years ago. And, you started seeing those magazines pop up because bodybuilding was becoming a bigger thing. This is the post Arnold era. And,
Right.
um, and it was becoming a big thing. So we started seeing the magazines and all the workouts. And so that kind of stuff inspired me. It was just like, wow, I mean, these people were like at the pinnacle of fitness. Fitness in the eye of the beholder, of course, right? Because are they
Right. Right.
with their steroids and everything else? Maybe not. But anyway, that's kind of how I got into it and led me down the path where I am now.
Nice. So what about what were some of these for the people that may know, for the generation that may know, what were some of
Ah,
the idols that you knew that you looked up to as far as working out? You were talking about Arnold and Joe Weider, but what were besides them, what were some of the others? I know you know a
oh
couple of
gosh.
them.
So I mean, moving into Arnold was always there. I mean, that was kind of like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
icon and the gold standard. But there was like Lee Labrada and Rich Gaspari were like the younger up and coming guys. And Lee Labrada actually he opened the chain of gyms in Houston. He's a Houston guy.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
those were a couple of the main guys. And then there was all the old, the guy Lee Haney that was Mr. Olympia many, many times over. Lou Ferrigno when he was in the Hulk and everybody wanted to be the Incredible Hulk, even though
Right, right.
couldn't talk because he was deaf. And so when he spoke, people were like, yeah, just don't talk, just be the Hulk, right? So
True,
which
true.
is kind of cold, but that's how it was. But yeah, those were some of the names that inspired me.
All
So
right, so then let's switch gears a bit. In the late '80s, early '90s, you were living here. So there is talk a little bit about the gym that you used to go to, the one that you and I went to for doing the clubs and doing different things. Um,
oh, the Hyde Park
Hyde Park.
gym. Yeah, um so back when I was in high school and playing football and things, it was always lifting that was interesting to me. And I went to Central, as you know, as you like to point out oftentimes, Central Catholic San Antonio.
Yeah.
The gym actually, the workout room was actually downstairs in almost like a dungeon, and so it had like metal cages around it and everything. So it was in a questionable neighborhood, so that nobody would come and steal the weights and shit. But it was very like old school. If anyone has ever seen Gold's Gym back in the 70s, it was not like Gold's Gym now looks like Planet Fitness, right? It's all carpeted and it has all the different machines. Well, Gold's Gym back in that time was just old, dirty, rusty weights, right? And it was guys in there that were like big and massive. And if you weren't big and massive, you kind of thought about not going in there, like you went somewhere else. And so, but Hyde Park Gym, which was just north of UT campus, was cheap. And I mean, I liked working out in that atmosphere, and I certainly was not big enough to really fit in with the typical meathead that was in there. But it was the environment that I liked, right? It was just old, dirty weights, and you just go in there and grind it out. And there was no step aerobics next door, and stuff like that. So that's kind of what I did in Austin.
Yeah, and when he says everyone, when he says old dirty weights, he means it. There is some curling bars there that the plates were welded on, so they were welded on. You ain't getting them off, so they were different weights on there. And I guess they just made it easier by welding them on and not having
50. They're like 50 pounds ish.
Yeah.
So
Just like you go with it, that's what you do.
So.
So if you ever get a chance to go to Hyde Park, or if you go to Hyde Park, let us know, because it'd be interesting to see if anything's changed. Last time we were out there was probably 4 or 5 years ago.
And it's probably longer than that.
Yeah, it's probably longer than that.
Yeah, see, when you get old like you forget like how long.
That's what happens, man. I think I'm the younger one. So, final thing, real quick, we have a couple minutes here. For someone like, say you have a grandson and he's interested in wanting to start lifting weights, and so he knows he's going to go to grandpa or Wilito, depending on how it is, and go to him and says, what do you think I should do as a young man who wants to start lifting weights? What advice would you give him?
So when I started, I was like 6th, 7th grade, and I just bought like a pair of the 10-pound dumbbells, and I just religiously followed that program that was in there, and it was just dumbbells. And when you're young and like a preteen or teen, I mean, your hormones start raging. You do 2 exercises and you look like a bodybuilder, right? I mean, it's like you have no body fat and your muscles pump up right away. And so, number one, I would say when you're in your teens and early 20s, that's the time to be lifting, because muscle memory, and I used to be a big fan of like doing research on lifting and nutrition and things like that. But muscle memory like dies hard. So cardio fitness goes really quick. So you take a couple of weeks off of cardio and you go back to running, and it's murder. Like, it's really hard. The body forgets it right away. But you stop lifting for a year or two. If you've been lifting for like 20 years, you go back and yeah, you're not quite as strong, but you don't lose like 50%, right? I mean, it's like you go back and you're like, holy shit, I can lift more than I thought I could. Of course, you can't walk the next day, because your body's not used to it, but you can still lift it. Like, you still have the strength to lift it. So sure. I would say number one, start lifting when you're young, because that's the time, and the muscle memory dies hard. And throughout my life, there's been years and even, 5 years, almost decades, where I did almost nothing, but I kept coming back to it, right? And you keep coming back to it, and you're like, well, shit, I'm not that far off than where I was. And within a shorter period of time than you think, you can get back to it. So number one, lift when you're young. That's the time to really be putting on the muscle, because you've got the hormones free. Right. You don't have to do any artificial hormones. You get the hormones there. All you got to do is lift a little bit, and you see big results. And then number two would just be focus on the big lifts, right? Squat, deadlift, bench, military press. If you just focus on those things in different varieties with dumbbells and barbells and, little right. things, focus on the big movements when you're young, because you can work on all the other accessory things later on. But focus on those big movements, and you'll see big results when you're young. So that's my advice for someone that's young.
No, not bad. We may save this for your grandkids later on. So
yeah, and for someone that's old, is just keep grinding. You just I wake up some days and everything hurts, and I don't want to do anything, and you roll out of bed and you go do it, right? You go into the garage.
You roll out of bed like Grandpa used to. Oi! As you get out.
Yeah, you start making those weird sounds, but then you're like, you work a little bit and you do a few deadlifts, and all of a sudden the oi goes away, and you're deadlifting or squatting or whatever, and you're like, it's not so cool. So.
Well, excellent. Well, thanks for spending time with us. We'll be for those of you, Rob lives here in Austin, and if you have any comments or questions about working out, just let me know, or you can reach out to him. All right, thanks, Robert. We'll talk to you later.
All right, guys.
All right.
Thanks.
All right.
Oh, hey. All right, so we're back. Thanks, Javier, for that great interview. That was my interview with Robert. and his view on exercise for the theme. So, great little interview there. If you have any comments about it, please let me know. Like I said, if you're interested in doing an interview, talk about something that you're passionate about, we can have an entire theme, first half of the podcast, totally about that. So, on the back end now, we're going to see the really great beer review guy, Javier, myself, that beer interview Javier was in the front end. Now this is beer review Javier on the back end, who's going to give us a review, or I'm going to give me a review on the 101st beer review. I moved from doing it every day for 100 days to now doing it as part of this podcast. I will still be posting it separately out to the Boutique, and so if, they are still open, by the way, for shopping. Come in, grab your bottles, and head out. They are a bottle shop, bottles and cans of various different types of beer and ciders, and it is fantastic. If you have not had a chance to go out there, I highly recommend it. And just yeah, go out there and say hi to the team, and they will set you up with any type of beer that you're looking for. So now I'm gonna switch over to beer review Javier, and he's doing a great job, by the way. And we're going to take a look at a new beer today called El Gran Pepinillo, and it's a beer that has been aged in both pickle and peppers. So take it away, Javier, and I'll talk to you again in a couple minutes. Hey, thanks, Javier. I appreciate that, and you're doing a great job as well. So, everybody, this is the beer review number 101. I will continue to number these, even though I'm now doing them once a week. However, I still want to thank the team out of Boutique for providing me with these beers and ciders that I've been reviewing. And so here is this Sunday's review. So, we are looking at Hop Fusion Ale Works. This is out of Fort Worth, Texas. This is their El Gran Pepinillo, which is a Mexican-style lager that they have actually aged on pickles and chili árbol peppers. So I don't know if you can see that. It's kind of hard with that can on this camera to get that. Here it is, El Gran Pepinillo. There it is right there. Cool looking can. So I poured it earlier. Here it is, you can see it. It's got a nice look to it, like most lagers do. A little golden brown color. It's definitely the pickle smell. It's nothing like that other one that I had. If you go back in my reviews, I did one called Pickle Forker. Forker not being the correct term, but I won't use the other one. That one was really high on the pickle smell. This one, not too bad. You get some lager smell to it, and maybe a little bit of spiciness. And then you definitely get the pickle, but not as strong as the other one. So yeah, so I think this one definitely has the front end. You get that pickle juice style taste that people like, which I like pickle juice in and of itself. You get a little bit of the lager, and then on the back end you get a little bit of the spiciness on the back of the tongue right before it goes down. A little bit on the hard side on the front end, but like I said, it still has the bit of lager coming through, so that's what's helping this beer out. However, if you are not a fan of pickles and you're not a fan of peppers in your beer, then this may not be for you. However, for the ones that are out there that like it, I would definitely go for it. So I'm gonna go ahead and give this one 7 thumbs up. So now what I'd like to do is go back to an oldie but a goodie. I'm gonna post for the first time my first review that I ever did for the team out of Boutique and for myself, which started the ball rolling on all of these beers. And I'm gonna do that, and we'll see how it is. It was about 107 days ago, so we'll see how bad I was at it. Okay, back to the old Javier. Hey everyone, Javier here. Just trying out from the boutique. I picked up a double IPA, High Boy, Bluebonnet Chronic. It's a blueberry double dry hopped IPA. So I thought I'd check it out and see what's going on. Really good, smooth. I think you can definitely smell a little bit of the blueberry. You don't taste it as much as it goes down, but it goes down real smooth. This is from Independence. And I think overall, as far as IPAs go, I would give it 8 thumbs out of 10. Thanks. Hey, so back from the beer reviews. Wow, that first one, I didn't realize that, I didn't remember that first one was Bluebonnet Chronic. Hey, I did okay, I guess, review-wise. Probably a lot of pauses and ums and stuff like that to it. But certainly give me some feedback and let me know what you think about it. So those are two of the beers that I have reviewed so far, 101 and counting. One from today, one from back in March 23rd to be exact. So really fantastic that I'm doing something like this now so you can kind of see how I did things and how I will continue to do things. Maybe you'll run across a beer that you didn't know about that you wind up liking. I myself really like that Bluebonnet Chronic. So if you have a chance, go out there to Boutique and see if it's out there for you, and check it out and let me know what you think. As always, I will continue to have beer on the back end of this podcast. I believe next week I'm going to go ahead and do a little history of it, so the back end side of the beer will be a little bit longer than it currently is. And we'll see. I've done some beer blogs before. I talked earlier in the first half of the podcast about uh, the blog that I did for exercise. I also did a beer blog for a while for a friend of mine who was beginning to get a brewery going. Well, he was independently brewing things and winning various awards all over the country for the beer that he did. It was really good. So he had me do some blog about the history of beer so that he could have that on his site. So if you can find that as well, and or if you really want to know where it is, let me know, and I can post in the comments below of the podcast on where to go and find that, along with the one about the exercise as well. So if you're interested in a particular area of the beer process, let me know and I can start off with that. I think I'm just gonna try to, if I don't get any feedback, I'll just start with the history of beer and have some fun little presentation here with some samples and stuff like that. I'm certainly going to start interviewing more people with having to do with beer as well. What I'd like to do is get a layman's opinion and review about our other layman's opinion about beer. And I would like to get some professional people in here. If I can, get them on a Zoom meeting like I did with the interview for Robert, which I'll be doing with the other interviews. So maybe I can get some brewers out here and Zoom meeting with them, and they can talk about their beer and their history behind how they got into the business, where they're going with their business, and where they see beer in 10 years time. I'd like to have that question answered. Where do they see beer going? We went from the traditional lists of Coors and Bud Light and those type of beers. We moved into some independent breweries now. Some of them are getting bought back up by the big guys. Some have already been bought back up by the big guys. So you may or may not know where your beer is coming from. There's a lot more additives to it, such as fruit and pickle, as we saw today, and peppers, and all sorts of things that are coming down the pipe. That will be seen not only here, but certainly if you go to some place like the Boutique, or if you follow independent brewers, you'll see some of the things that they're doing. So one of the great questions would be, where do they see either themselves, their company, or just beer in general going? What's the next catch-all? What's the next thing going to be? Are they going to be adding it in who knows? I mean, I don't know. That's why we're going to be asking these questions. So I'll be having some pat questions, and then I'll just be having some off the cuff questions. As you saw with my brother's interview, those were a little bit more off the cuff. Something I wanted to try. So it really depends on if I'm talking to someone who's passionate about beer, I can have some pat questions. If not, if they're still passionate about beer, but then maybe we have, it's running a little short, I can certainly throw some questions in there like what's going on in the future and that sort of thing. So I think it'll be a lot of fun. I think people will enjoy it, and we'll see. So I'll continue to go along these lines as far as my podcast is concerned. I hope you have enjoyed the uh, podcast, enjoyed the interview that I had, enjoyed my reviews. If you'd like to see something different, please by all means let me know. If you'd like to see me do something different, wear a different shirt. If you're a business or company and you want me to wear your shirt, by all means let me know, and I'll wear it. I have no problem with it at all. I don't mind being a shill. I don't mind selling out. Certain by all means. So I'll be trying to get better shirts going also. But I'll let everybody know what's going on. Until then, I will talk to everybody again next week. I hope you have a great week. I hope you had a good 4th. And I will talk to everybody again next week. All right. Bye now.